when you were first diagnosed, how did that impact you straight away?
It was sort of a big change and not much of a change at the same time. So mentally it was quite a lot to take in, just because obviously it's something new, something I've never even considered that might be a condition that I have. But initially with sort of taking the insulin and improving those levels, we only made very minor changes because we didn't want to basically risk me going the complete other way and ending up wiped out. So it was a change, but not as drastic as maybe it might sound.
So did you go into it with some sort of preconceptions, sort of like insulin and hypers, stuff like that?
I mean, it sounds bad. Like, one of my best mates at school was type 1, and we just made like a joke about it.
Right.
But that was partly from him. He kind of took the mickey out of himself and just played it down. So I was never too uptight about it, and I never really sort of took how seriously it could be. And then I got back in touch with him and sort of said, mate, I'm so sorry for all that sort of mickey taking that we did at the time. But he's that sort of guy. He's willing to put himself out there and take the mickey out of himself to make others feel at ease. And I think I've kind of tried to do that as best as I can here as well, because it's quite an unforgiving environment to have something like that when it's new and nobody understands it. So
it's a bit daunting at first.
Yeah, and the lads like taking the mickey as much as they can. So yeah, I mean, I just try and play it down and just make it as normal as I can for everybody.
So on the footballing side of things, how is that? How have you coped with those sort of things? Sort of like in games, and I suppose you've got half time if you needed to treat any side of the diabetes. But how has that impacted on you in terms of the game?
Last year was terrible. Yeah, to be totally honest, I just used to have 4 or 5 different sort of feelings and emotions and all sorts through the game. I could feel perfectly fine, I could feel nauseous, I could feel exhausted, I could have blurred vision, and that's all within sort of 45 minutes of football. And then half time would normally come around, and usually that's when I'd start feeling all right again. So it would be when the insulin start working and bring my sugars back down. And then it became another problem going back out because it had all start again. So it was a bit of a roller coaster last year. But thankfully took the summer, sort of played around a bit, experimented a little bit with different things and different workouts and stuff like that. And so far this year, barring a couple of games when I was without my sensor, things have been pretty bang on. And that gives me confidence knowing I'm going out there in the right state, in the right condition to be out there. And that's really the key to it is being sort of proactive with it, using my sensor and the stuff that I have available, and making sure that everything's always balanced and ready to go.
So is there anyone you sort of confide in, maybe the manager, maybe the players, not necessarily during a game, but maybe in training or something like that?
Sometimes I think I have to speak to the phys quite a bit. And he can track my data through the app that we've got and stuff. So on a night, because I'm down without the family, so if I have a low sugar through the night and he's concerned, he can give me a call, or if it goes too low, it'll set an alarm off on his phone. And then he'll sort of ring me, are you all right? I've had it a few times, but it's often been that I've just fallen asleep on the sensor and it's had a bit of a 5-minute dip. So it's probably the phys and John really that I keep in touch with most about it, because they're the two that would be able to get off and get me something if I needed it. Obviously the lads are in there playing and concentrating on their own games, so it's probably those two who, if I have any concerns or I'm not feeling right, they're the two that I'd probably go to.
So did you sort of struggle initially and then you sort of come into your own, maybe because you need a bit more education initially, but maybe something like that?
I think it's probably fair to say that, to be honest. Like I said, the summer was a great opportunity just because you don't have the stress of you training for the game and you know everything's about performance. So I had time to go and try different things, different foods, different sort of routines of taking insulin, or finding out which different foods react differently with different amounts of insulin. Like
it's all about carb counting.
Well, and I've been to see specialists and they've said that I'm too early on to do carb counting, so I'm still sort of trial and error.
So still in the honeymoon period, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because you said you were diagnosed in January, is that right?
Yeah, so the honeymoon period, they've now told me for like an athlete or an active person could last up to 4 years.
Really? All right. Because
So
I've been
I'm kind of like, I sort of hope it does, and then again I hope it doesn't, because I'd get too comfortable within that, and then if it took 4 years and then I started to change again, I'm not sure that would be the easiest thing to deal with. But that's sort of a help. But now, in the last sort of week when the weather started turning, that makes a difference. I think that was the biggest thing that hit me last year, was when the weather changed around sort of March, April time. And they had warned me about it, but you can't really be prepared to.
You've sort of got to live through it first, don't you? Yeah.
You've just got to do it on the fly, and it caught me out, and I was off for a few weeks then as well, and I just felt terrible.
Yeah.
And everyone's going, well, what's the difference? And I was like, the weather. And they're like, people just don't.
People don't understand, do they?
They don't get it. No. So it's hard, and there are misconceptions, and you've got to sometimes just take a little bit of grief, but just knowing that people are either uneducated on it or are just ignorant to it, and that for me is the hardest thing.
So what would you say to anyone out there who thinks they may have type 1 diabetes, or even type 2 for that matter? What would you say they should do?
If you are worried and you do have some of the symptoms, just go and speak to someone, go to the doctors, be checked. It's a quick procedure. It may be a urine test, it may be a blood test. It takes literally 2 minutes, and you'll get your results, and you'll know there for certain, and they may even be able to tell you if you've got any danger of developing it further along. So it's a quick thing to get checked, and it could save your life, so I'd go and get it checked.
Thank you very much.
No problem.